It was supposed to be paradise. The final confirmation had buzzed into my inbox just the day before: oceanfront villa, private lanai, 5 nights in Maui. After months of non-stop work and 2 years of postponing everything because of life, this was finally happening. Adam had planned everything down to the last detail: snorkeling excursions, candlelit dinners, a couple's massage on the 3rd morning. He even picked up matching luggage sets. It was our 5th wedding anniversary. We were finally going to stop being roommates who coordinate calendars and be a couple again. But life doesn't schedule its breakdowns. I was standing in the kitchen, checking our flight times, when my phone rang. Jen. I nearly let it go to voicemail. My younger sister has a flair for the dramatic, and I assumed she was calling about another minor crisis with her kids or a disagreement with her husband. But something made me answer. Her voice was already shaking. "Claire," she whispered, and just that, my name, made my stomach drop. "What happened?" "It's Mom. I called the ambulance. She passed out at the pharmacy. They're taking her to the ER." My fingers went cold. "Wait, what? What do you mean, passed out?" "I don't know. She was picking up her meds and just collapsed. I'm on the way there now, but I can't do this alone." I looked over at Adam, who was zipping up his bag with the excitement of a child heading to Disneyland. His eyes met mine, and he smiled. That smile broke me. In that moment, I felt like I was being ripped in two. "Okay," I said quietly into the phone. "I'm coming." Adam didn't react at first when I told him. He just blinked, then slowly unzipped the bag he had just zipped. "She has other family, Claire. She has Jen. She has uncles. She has people. She doesn't have Dad," I said. "And she doesn't have you." Adam exhaled and sat on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped. "We've been planning this for months." "Months? Do you even know the last time we took a trip together?" "I know," I said. "I know exactly how long it's been. But she's my mother. So I just go by myself?" "That's what you're saying?" I hesitated. "No. I'm saying we postpone." He looked at me with a tired kind of anger, the kind that doesn't shout but lingers. "We won't. We'll never reschedule. Something will always come up." I didn't have an answer. And he didn't argue. He just walked out of the bedroom with a quiet, bitter shake of his head, muttering, "Of course." I arrived at the hospital just after 5 p.m. The lights were harsh, the waiting room overcrowded, and Jen looked like she'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. Her face was pale, her mascara smeared. She hugged me like she hadn't seen me in months. "They think it's her heart," she whispered. "She was dehydrated, dizzy, they're running tests now." "Has she woken up?" She shook her head. "Not yet." We sat there for what felt like hours. I texted Adam updates. He responded with one-liners. "Got it. Hope she's okay. Let me know." But none of them sounded like him. And when I finally got to see Mom, still unconscious, tubes in her arms, face pale against the sheets, I felt the full weight of my decision settle over me. I had missed our flight. Missed our first real vacation in years. And yet, sitting there, holding my mother's cold hand, I knew I wouldn't have done anything differently. Still, a new ache had bloomed in my chest. Because while I hadn't lost my mother, not yet, I wasn't sure if I'd already started losing my marriage. It was 3 days after the trip that never happened, and Mom was still in the hospital. She'd stabilized. That was the good news. The doctors said it was a combination of untreated hypertension, poor hydration, and stress. The not-so-good news? She'd need ongoing care, and someone to manage her discharge plan, appointments, medications, and her refusal to sit around like an invalid. That someone, of course, became me. I tried to do it all. I picked up her prescriptions. I spoke to the cardiologist. I arranged a home nurse for the mornings and convinced Jen to alternate nights with me, though Jen had 2 toddlers at home and a husband who was useless at laundry. I felt like I was holding up a circus tent on my own. And then there was Adam. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. He just disappeared in plain sight. He worked late. Came home after I was asleep. Left early in the mornings. We existed like 2 planets caught in each other's orbit but spinning on different timelines. The night I finally asked him if he was okay, he was sitting on the couch scrolling his phone. I stood in the hallway, folding one of Mom's sweaters she'd asked me to bring from her place. "Adam?" I asked. He didn't look up. "Yeah? Are we okay?" He paused. Set the phone down. "I don't know, Claire. Are we?" I walked over and sat beside him. "I didn't want to choose between you and her," I said softly. He sighed, ran a hand through his hair. "But you did." She collapsed. "Adam. I couldn't." "I'm not angry that you went," he interrupted. "I'm angry that you didn't even hesitate. That we've been waiting years for something to be about us, and the second something else came up, you dropped it." My throat tightened. "So I'm selfish if I go, and selfish if I stay?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "You're just not here. Not really. Not anymore." The following week, Mom was discharged. She insisted on going back to her apartment. Refused to come stay with me or Jen. "I need to feel like myself," she said. But within 24 hours, she called in a panic because she couldn't remember if she'd taken her meds. Then she slipped in the shower. Then she fell asleep with the oven on. Each time, I drove to her place like a fireman responding to a 5-alarm blaze. Each time, Adam grew a little quieter. Until one night, when I came home past 10 p.m. Exhausted, greasy from reheating soup, and reeking of antiseptic and Vicks, I found a note on the kitchen table. "Claire. I know you're doing what you think is right. And I love that about you. But I miss you. And I don't know how to be with someone who's no longer present in her own life. I feel like a stranger in our home. I don't want to give up. But I need to know if I still matter. Not just when things are calm. But when things are hard, like now. Please choose us, too. Adam." I stared at that note until the words blurred. I wanted to rip it up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to go back in time and somehow fix everything before it began unraveling. But all I could do was sit on the floor and cry into the silence of my apartment. Because I had no idea how to choose between the woman who raised me and the man who married me. And deep down, I feared the worst. That I might lose them both. The note sat on the kitchen table for 3 days. I couldn't bring myself to move it. It felt like a line drawn in ink, a quiet ultimatum written not in anger, but in grief. Adam didn't bring it up again. Neither did I. We became polite ghosts, passing each other in the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room, 2 souls occupying the same space with nothing anchoring us together. Meanwhile, Mom needed more than I could give. Her strength came and went. Some days she was lucid and sharp, laughing at old sitcoms and calling me overdramatic for worrying. Other days, she would forget what year it was. She'd ask for Dad, who had died 6 years ago, then act like we'd kept it from her. I tried to correct her gently. Jen told me not to. "You're just going to upset her," Jen said. "Let her believe what she needs to get through the day." But I wasn't sure if I was getting through the day. I was failing at everything. I missed 2 work deadlines. I forgot Adam's client dinner. I canceled my weekend brunch with friends. I rescheduled therapy twice. The only thing I showed up for, without fail, was the next crisis. And it was killing my marriage by inches. One Thursday night, I came home from picking up a new prescription for Mom. Adam was already home, sitting in the living room. A suitcase stood beside him. My heart dropped. "What's that?" He looked up, face unreadable. I'm going to stay at Paul's for a few days. I felt cold all over. You're leaving? I need space, Claire. To do what? To remember what it feels like to be someone's priority. That cut deeper than any argument we'd ever had. Adam, I'm trying. I'm trying to keep everything together. I know you are, he said quietly. But in the process, you've let us fall apart. Tears burned in my eyes. So you're just walking away? I'm giving you time, he said. To decide if you still want to fight for this. That night, I went to Mom's and sat with her while she slept. Her chest rose and fell softly. She looked peaceful. Weak, but peaceful. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. This wasn't her fault. I stepped outside to call Jen. Can you take over this weekend? I asked. Please. She was surprised. Of course, but, are you okay? No, I said. But I need to try and fix the only thing that might still be. I went home the next morning and looked around our apartment like I was seeing it for the first time. The blanket on the couch we used to curl up under. The framed photo of our wedding on the hallway wall. The travel brochures still pinned to the fridge, Maui, Bali, Santorini, all reminders of the life we kept postponing for something else. I sent Adam a message. Claire, come home tonight. If you still want to. I'll be here. No response for hours. I cooked dinner. I cleaned the bedroom. I lit a candle like it might ward off all the invisible weight sitting on my shoulders. Then, around 9 p.m., I heard a key in the door. He walked in. We just stood there for a moment. I don't want to fight, I whispered. Me neither, he replied. I reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. We sat down. No yelling. No accusations. Just truth. I got lost, I told him. In everything. In her pain. In my guilt. In trying to do everything I thought I had to do. Adam nodded. I never wanted to compete with your family. I just wanted to be part of your world again. You are, I said. But I need to prove it. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then. Okay. Just that. But it was everything. That weekend, I went back to Mom's, but only for an hour. Jen stayed the rest of the night. I let myself exist in my own home again. Adam and I watched a movie. Ordered takeout. We didn't fix everything, but we started breathing together again. We talked about going to therapy. About finding balance. About building a life where we didn't have to be everything to everyone, just enough for each other. Because marriage, I was learning, isn't about getting everything right. It's about showing up again, especially when you've gotten it wrong. The truth is, healing doesn't happen in a weekend. After Adam came home, we began tiptoeing through the mess we'd made. There were no grand declarations, no tearful makeups. Just small, ordinary efforts, coffee made before I woke up, me remembering to ask about his day, us eating dinner together without a phone on the table between us. But under all of it was still the ache. Mom was getting worse. Not physically, necessarily, her body was healing slowly. But mentally, she was fading. Confusing names. Repeating stories. Calling me by Jen's name. Then forgetting where she put the remote and insisting the neighbor had stolen it. I started Googling phrases like early signs of dementia and how to talk to a parent about memory loss. Every time I closed the laptop, I felt like the floor beneath me was a little less solid. One night, after another episode at Mom's, she accused Jen of poisoning her tea. I came home drained and angry. I dropped my bag on the floor and sank into the couch. Adam walked in with 2 mugs of chamomile. You look like you've been hit by a bus, he said gently. She told Jen she's trying to kill her. He handed me the mug and sat beside me. Do you think she really believes that? I shook my head. No. I think her brain is breaking. And she's scared. And I don't know how to help her. Adam was quiet for a moment. Have you thought about talking to a specialist? I turned to him. What kind of specialist? Someone who deals with this kind of decline. A neurologist. Maybe even someone who can talk to you and Jen. Help guide decisions. I exhaled slowly. We've talked about it. But Mom doesn't believe anything's wrong. If we suggest it, she'll think we're trying to lock her away. Adam looked at me, his eyes steady. Claire, at some point, you're going to have to stop being her daughter, and start being her advocate. His words stung. Not because they were harsh, but because they were true. That weekend, I sat down with Jen. We brought takeout to Mom's and waited until she was watching one of her mystery shows. Then we stepped onto the balcony. Jen looked exhausted. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours in days. I don't know how much longer I can do this, she said. I know, I replied. Me neither. We stood in silence until I finally said it out loud. We need to get her tested. Jen looked at me, her eyes wide. Do you think it's really that bad? I don't know, I said. But I know I'm tired of pretending it's not. She nodded slowly. Okay. But if we do this, we do it together. No guilt. No blame. I reached for her hand and squeezed. Together. Adam noticed the change in me that week. I was quieter. More focused. Less frantic. He didn't ask for explanations. He simply gave me space, and showed up. He started going with me to see Mom sometimes. Helped me organize paperwork. Took over dinner duty when I forgot to eat. It wasn't romantic, and it wasn't exciting. But it was love. One night, after we climbed into bed, he turned to me and whispered, "Thank you for coming back." I didn't cry. But something inside me softened. "Thank you for not giving up," I whispered back. We scheduled Mom's appointment. She fought it, of course. Said we were overreacting. Told us she was just tired and not some old woman who needs babysitting. But when we explained it calmly, told her we loved her and needed to know how to help her best, something in her eyes shifted. Just a little. "All right," she said finally. "But only because I don't want you two wasting time worrying about me." That night, I sat in our apartment beside Adam, the weight of everything finally settling into something I could carry. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was juggling 1,000 things at once. I felt like I was building something again. Not a perfect life. But a real one. The day of Mom's appointment arrived with a heavy kind of stillness. I dressed her carefully that morning. Buttoned her favorite cardigan, brushed her hair like she used to do mine when I was little. She was quiet, watching me with eyes that flickered between gratitude and suspicion. "You two are fussing too much," she muttered as I guided her into the car. "I'm not dead yet." "No," I said softly. "But I need to understand what's happening before it's too late." Adam sat in the back seat, giving us space. Jen rode with her husband in a separate car. No one spoke much on the way there. It felt like a funeral procession without the flowers. At the clinic, we filled out forms, waited in stiff plastic chairs, and answered the doctor's questions as best we could. Then came the tests. And then the waiting. The official diagnosis came a week later. Early onset vascular dementia. It was like someone had cracked open the floor beneath us and invited us to fall. Mom took it better than we did. "I always figured my brain would go before my bones," she said with a wry smile. "At least now I have an excuse when I forget your birthdays." But there were moments when the mask slipped, when she stared at the mirror too long, or when she called me Jenna and didn't correct herself. Moments that sliced deeper than anything else ever could. We had decisions to make. Care plans to consider. Legal documents to sort out. But somewhere in the chaos, something beautiful began to take shape. Adam and I found our rhythm again, not the wild, passionate kind from our first year of marriage, but the kind forged in fire and fatigue. The kind that understands love doesn't always look like candlelit dinners or vacations under palm trees. Sometimes it looks like hand-delivered soup and holding someone while they cry over a mother who no longer remembers what year it is. He started driving me to Mom's appointments. He brought flowers for her once, said it was just because. He made me breakfast one morning and said, "I'm proud of you," like it was the simplest thing in the world. I cried for 10 minutes straight. One afternoon, a month after the diagnosis, we finally opened the suitcase we never got to use. The tags were still on. The resort confirmation was tucked into one of the pockets. I held it like it was a relic from a life we almost lived. "We should cancel this," I whispered. Adam shook his head. "No. We'll go." "When?" "Someday," he said. "Not to escape everything. Just to remember who we were, and who we still are." I smiled through the sadness. 6 months later, we sat on a different beach, not in Maui, not in some luxury resort, but a small rental house 3 hours up the coast. It wasn't glamorous. The towels were thin, and the water pressure was laughable. But it was quiet. It was ours. And when we sat on the porch that night, watching the waves roll in, Adam reached for my hand and said, "This is enough." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Because we weren't where we'd planned to be. But we were exactly where we needed to be. Together.